Time to play the schedule game. Let's get it. What is up, Bengals fam? It's your boy Mike coming back at you. I took a couple days off because I had my second vaccine shot. Your boy's back, feeling better than ever. Just had like what felt like a mild hangover yesterday, so I didn't do it. I didn't do the video. But today, coming back strong. Bengals released, or the NFL released the official schedule this week. It's weird because there's an extra game, so the records have an extra game on them. No more, unless you tie, you can't go 500 anymore. So I wanted to go through game by game, give you my predictions for the schedule. I'm going to tell you right straight up, two things you got to remember. If you're new to this channel, this is a Bengals optimism channel. I'm going to assume that most of the players stay healthy, especially Joe Burrow. I'm going to assume that they perform to what I believe, to the level that I believe they can perform. And I'm just going to lay that out with you right now. Let's take a look at the schedule. Starting off at home, the games in orange on the schedule here are the home games. Games in the darker grayish black color there are the away games. Starting out at home against the Minnesota Vikings. I'll tell you what, guys. I think the Bengals come out with something to prove. I think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase show out against this team. The Vikings have a really good outside corners, two really good outside corners. Look for Tyler Boyd to have a big game in this game, but also look for Joe Mixon to ball out too, because Joe Mixon has something to prove. This is a prove it year for your boy Joe. He's got to get out there and get it done. I'm gonna go with the dub. First week one, coming out of the gates at home. Going to be a rocking, sold out crowd at Paul Brown Stadium. It's going to be big. We don't know yet when they're going to do the Ring of Honor stuff. It might be the first game, but I think it would be a big flex if they ended up doing it on their only primetime game, which is a Thursday night game in Week 4 against the Jaguars. Next, you boys go to Chicago. I think Chicago's got a lot to figure out. If this is Andy Dalton, and it very well could be Andy Dalton that the Bengals end up playing against here, because we don't know if Justin Fields is going to make, he's going to be ready to play, if he's going to be ready to take over the offense quite yet. That's why you have a veteran quarterback like Andy Dalton. But either way, whether if it's Justin Fields or Andy Dalton, I think the Bengals go out there. I think they get the job done with another dub and come out 2-0. Mostly because I think when I look at matchups here, what I look at is who's got the better quarterback. That's kind of the main thing you need to look at when you look at unit for unit, who's got the better units on the team. You look for the quarterback gives you the edge, and Joe Burrow is going to give the Bengals the edge in a lot of games because he's that good. He's definitely better than Justin Fields right now. He's definitely better than Andy Dalton right now. I got the dub here. Next, they're going to go to Pittsburgh for what will be a pretty big game. I don't know what the Steelers record is going to be at this point, but I got the Bengals. Whoa! I accidentally put two of them up there. My bad. But spoiler alert: I think they're going to win at home against the Jaguars. I don't think they're going to be able to beat the Bengals in Cincinnati in a primetime game, especially because the Bengals will be 3-0 going into that game because they're going to beat the Steelers. Guys, look, the Steelers are bad. I know the Bengals fandom they want to be afraid of the Steelers. You don't want to, but you kind of are because they're the Steelers. Look, Ben is not the quarterback he used to be. I know we've been saying that for a few years, but I mean, it's for real this year. He's just not the Ben of old. Their offensive line is bad, and they didn't do anything to make it any better. Their defense is aging, and their secondary is bad. So I think the Bengals get the job done against the Steelers in Pittsburgh. I also think that they come back home, even though that's off of 4 days of rest there. It is going to be tough. That's a quick turnaround. 4 days of rest is a quick turnaround for any team. But I think the Bengals will get it done there at home against the Jaguars. Next, they'll stay at home, and the Green Bay Packers will come in. This game comes with a caveat, guys, because we don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing. But if he is, that's an L. And that's the quarterback thing, man. I think that across the board, the teams are pretty evenly matched unit for unit. Some units the Packers have a little bit of an edge. Some units the Bengals have a little bit of an edge. But at the end of the day, like I said, if it comes down to they're evenly matched, who you got for the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers gives against almost any other quarterback in the league gives your team the edge there. So the Bengals catch their first L of the season there. They're 4-1 after 5 weeks. Next, they'll go to Detroit. That's their first home loss of the year. That's what I'm predicting. Their first home loss of the year will be against the Green Bay Packers. Then they'll go to Detroit, and they're getting the dub. They'll rebound there. They'll get the dub in Detroit. Detroit's not very good, guys. They lost Matthew Stafford. I don't even know. I think it's me. I think they're signing me to play quarterback or something. I don't know who's going to be throwing the ball around there. They don't have a lot going for them. They're going to, they smack of like the Bengals after Burrow got hurt last year. They just don't have it. Who's gonna move the ball? Who's gonna score you points? By the way, that team, the Bengals without Burrow last year, they beat the Steelers. Just saying. So that's why I think the Steelers are bad, because they didn't do a whole lot to improve on that team from last year. Anyway, the Bengals will rebound here, get the win against the Lions. Then they'll have to go to for their biggest test of the year, probably. Their first big test of the year. They're gonna go to Baltimore. And they're going to catch the L. Baltimore's really good. This is Baltimore and Cleveland's division to fight for here, with the Bengals trying to claw their way into contention. That's the way I see this division kind of shaking out this year. I think this is a close game. I think that Joe Burrow really, really wants to prove to everybody that he is not going to be intimidated by teams in the division like Baltimore and Cleveland. He's going to do everything he can to keep the boys in that game. But at the end of the day, in Baltimore, it's a little too much to ask for a young team that is definitely on the come up. But they've still got a lot of improving to do. But the next week, they get a break because they go play another rookie quarterback in in New Jersey. And Zach Wilson. Guys, I'm not a huge Zach Wilson guy. I think that the jump of competition between BYU to the NFL is way too big to expect Zach Wilson to be able to perform early in his career. I'm not saying he can't be good later on. I just don't think you're going to see it right out of the gate. I think the Bengals get it done against the Jets. And then they come back home on November the 7th to play the Brownies. They're catching an L. Guys, I just don't think they're quite there yet. The Browns have a great roster. They really do. Outside of quarterback and maybe the wide receiver unit, the Browns have better units across the board than the Bengals do. I know I told you whenever it's relatively equal, you give the better quarterback the edge, but it's not relatively equal here. It's the Browns just have a better roster. Now the Bengals are building a roster that's going to eventually be, in more in line with what the Browns have. And if you give Joe Burrow a pretty good roster, which I think by this time next year we'll be talking about how deep and really talented this roster is. But right now this is a prove it year for a lot of guys. The linebacker unit's got to prove it. All those free agents, Lou Anarumo's got to prove that he can take all those defensive back free agents and meld them together into a cohesive pass defense unit. The pass rush has got to prove. Trey Hendrickson's got to prove that he can translate what he did last year to this year. Sam Hubbard's going to have to step up pretty big, and Joseph Osai is going to be a big. It's going to be a big deal this year. If Joseph Osai can come in and generate pressures off the edge and allow Sam Hubbard to kick in and rush from essentially a 3-tech position, that'll be a huge deal. So we'll be looking at Joseph Osai. I've got more coming on Joseph Osai next week. I'm going to do a film breakdown and show you guys what kind of player we got, because the dude can get it. He can get after it. Bengals go into the bye week at 6-3. Hey man, I'll take that. I like that. 6-3 start, going into the bye. Great stuff. They'll get They'll get the Raiders coming out of the bye. They have to go to Las Vegas. This is going to be a crazy game. The Raiders, I think they're pretty well coached. I'm not as big on John Gruden. Everybody's giving John Gruden the benefit of the doubt like he's some kind of genius head coach. But really what I think it is they have a lot of veterans on their team and that have played together in this system for quite a while now. And I think that's going to give the youth of the Bengals roster some troubles. And I think that they end up catching the L in Las Vegas. And hopefully they stay, since they won't have much to celebrate, they'll stay out of trouble after the game in Las Vegas. But then they go and they get a break. How about this? A break in the schedule is what I'm calling Pittsburgh nowadays, because it is. They're going to sweep the Steelers for the first time since the War of 1812 or something. They're going to sweep the Steelers in the season, and that will be the national wake-up call. This Bengals team is legitimate, and you need to pay attention to them because they're going to be coming out, and then they'll have to go out to LA, not San Diego where I am, but LA. You know what? It doesn't change my pick. They don't play the Chargers on the West Coast. They play them at home. However, that doesn't change my pick. This is going to be a huge game. You guys, I wouldn't be surprised if they flex this game to prime time at this point, because I think the Chargers are going to have a pretty good record. If this happens the way that I think it will, the Bengals are going to have a pretty good record, and you're going to have Burrow and Herbert playing against each other if they're both healthy. However, I got the Bengals catching the L here. I think that Herbert's going to catch his stride, be playing really, really well. I think it'll be a close game. I also think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think that even though both teams have really good secondaries and safeties, I think that both quarterbacks figure out ways to score points, and they push each other to put points on the board. You're looking at both teams possibly scoring in the 30s in that game. Then you got San Francisco, and guys, they rebound again. I don't have them going back-to-back losses yet. I just don't think that they'll do. I think Joe Burrow and the boys will rebound after losses really, really well. And it helps. Well, they got back-to-back losses if you count before and after the bye week. But I think they go to look. Here's the problem with San Francisco. The quarterback situation is up in the air. Is it Trey Lance? Is it Garoppolo? I know it doesn't really matter that much. I think because of their coach, Shanahan will figure out a way to get points on the board. However, their pass rush is absolutely awful. It was bad last year, maybe even worse than the Bengals. They didn't do much to make it better this year. If you don't get pressure on Joe Burrow, stand back there and pick you apart. I think that's what happens. Joe Burrow leads the boys to a victory there, standing clean in the pocket pretty much all day, just picking the team apart. Let's move on to the Broncos. They got to go to Denver and play the Broncos. They catch another dub with the Broncos. The Broncos Drew Lock isn't doing anything for me. I don't know how they score points. Drew Lock, he's splashy. You know what I mean? But with all those veterans the Bengals have in their secondary now, I just think it's going to be tough for him to find ways to put points on the board. They're going to have to try to run the ball. And I do think the Bengals' run defense is going to be quite a bit better this year. But then you hit the murderer's row coming out of the gate. Right now, we're sitting here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you got 9 wins to 5. They're sitting there at 9-5 here. And you're looking in really good position. But man, closing the season out here, even though 2 of them are at home, Baltimore, Kansas City, Cleveland, that's tough. Baltimore, I think, even though they caught the loss earlier in the year, I think they lose again to Baltimore at home. Mostly because I think Baltimore is going to be. All 3 of these teams are going to be fighting for the number 1 seed in the AFC, and that's a tough spot to be in if you're the Bengals, playing against those teams that all need to win to improve their seeding in the playoffs going in. I think you're going to get the best out of all 3 of those teams. I think Lamar Jackson figures out a way to just run around enough to beat the Bengals at home. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes. And I think these are going to be really, really good games. You're going to see shootouts. These are going to be close. I don't think you really see the Bengals get blown out at all this year. I think that you see them within 1 score just about every time. But that's the NFL. That's pretty much how all the games go. It's within 1 score. But Kansas City comes in, gets the job done, and also Cleveland does too. I don't see them beating Cleveland this year. I went back and forth. I thought maybe they'll split. Maybe they'll go home and home split with Cleveland. And you know what? They very well could go home and home split with Cleveland, but I'm not going to bank on it because I've got them sweeping I'm sorry, I've got them sweeping the Steelers and lose, and then so I've got them going 2-4 in the division. I think that's, you know, I think that's fair. They could go 500. They could catch a win against the Browns or the Ravens at some point and go 3-3 in the division. But I think that's about the best you can ask for. So I got the Bengals record next year being 9-8, and I think that might be good enough to hit the playoffs, guys. If you end up with a winning record with this extra game in the schedule, I think you're in the playoffs. That's it for today. We did it. By the way, guys, I don't like this game because it's silly. Just like all the other stuff, that I like to base my decisions on analytics, not just on wild speculation. This game's weird, but everybody seems to do it. It seems like a prerequisite if you're a YouTuber, an NFL team, an NFL YouTuber, you got to do the schedule game. But anyway, 9-8, write it down. That's going to do it for me, guys. I've been Mike. This has been Who Daily. Peace.